Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. Welcome to Science Fiction Saturday again. And I got for you two movies, one from 2020, one from 2025, both by the same directors. And they're small budget, hidden gem science fiction movies that you ought to check out if you haven't. It's really weird because I looked them up on IMDb and I looked them up on Rotten Tomatoes. On Rotten Tomatoes, they get a high score, like 98% approval rating. IMDb, not so much. IMDb for me is just not the place to look for ratings for movies. I like small movie directors. I like low budget movie directors who do interesting things, kind of like Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who made things like The Endless, which I recommend as well. But this one's made by a pair of brothers called Kevin and Matthew McManus. And the two movies are from 2020, The Block Island Sound, and from 2025, a movie called Redux Redux, which is as good a science fiction movie as I've seen this year. Each one of these movies has an individual and interesting premise about it, and the stories are told in interesting ways. These are, as I've said about other movies, not the kind of movies you watch while you're fiddling with your Black Mirror. They're movies to pay attention to because you're going to get all the little bits and pieces that build the picture, build the story, build the world of the movies. The first movie, Block Island Sound, is the one I watched second. And it starts out really interestingly. There's a man on a boat and he's waking up. He's been unconscious for some reason. It's a little fishing boat off the coast of Rhode Island where the McManus Brothers are based, or at least were at the time they made this movie. They're from Rhode Island. And that man's name is Tom. He's woken up and there's fish scattered all over the deck of his boat. He had a dog on the boat, but the chain for the dog has been looped over the side of the boat, and the collar's still there, but the dog is gone. And he hears a noise. Now, we hear the noise in the movie before we ever see any visuals. A weird noise that sounds like it could be whales, but probably not. It's a very eerie noise, and he wakes up and goes back to his house. But he has cognitive issues afterwards. He zones out a lot. He does odd things. He hears voices. He sees hallucinations. He's not in a good way. His son and one of his daughters come to the house. His son's got anger management issues. He's a young guy. He drinks too much. He seems to be somewhere on the autism spectrum in that he can't accept simple answers for problems he has. There has to be a bigger answer somewhere else. One of his two daughters, Audrey, played by the sister of the directors, Michaela McManus, who's also the star of the second movie, works for the Environmental Protection Authority, and she's come to the island because there's been fish die-offs on the coast. And the weird thing is they happen periodically. They don't happen all at one go. And so there are fish, there are birds dying and washing up on the beaches. There's something weird going on. There's a bit of an ecological something happening on the island. Audrey has a young daughter, and there is another sister who lives in New York and is slightly estranged from the family. I'm going to work out how to tell you this without telling you everything. The problems increase. Weird events keep happening. There are deer on the roads that are acting strange. Block Island is a real island off the coast of Rhode Island. And it's one of those islands that's seasonally very popular in the summer. And then in the wintertime and in the off-season, it's just a whole bunch of eccentric locals living there. And there's a kind of dynamic between the wealthy people who come to the island and the people who live there who are wealthy in real estate. The real estate's worth a lot of money. But in the off-season, they're not very well off at all. So you get the whole feel of this unusual liminal place. And it's liminal because it's the off-season. And there's not many people around. And the people that are there are just drinking and waiting for the summer season. The son, whose name is Harry, played by Chris Sheffield, is starting to worry about things. His father goes missing and he starts hearing the sounds. And he starts zoning out. He starts having all the same symptoms that his father had. And Audrey has to come and investigate what's going on with her brother, where her father has disappeared to, and she's also got to look after her daughter, who's come with her. So there's a lot of complex family dynamics in this movie, but increasingly there are more and more weird events going on. The movie sets up a couple of red herrings. There's a conversation near the start of the film where the local conspiracy theorist friend of Harry's starts talking about toxoplasmosis and other things that affect the brain. And there are some moments when Harry thinks he may have a parasite in him. But we're not sure because it could well be a hallucination he's having. It's never quite nailed down which parts of what Harry sees and feels and perceives are genuine and which parts are hallucination caused by what's causing everything. And we never actually find out what's causing everything. We know what it does or what they do. We don't even know whether it's one or multiple. Without going into spoilers, it could be aliens, it could be the Elder Gods, it could be Cthulhu for all we know. It's something beyond human understanding that's causing these problems and is proving to be an existential threat to the family. Not only Audrey and her daughter, but Tom the father and Harry and the other sister. There's weird stuff going on and weird inexplicable stuff. And the movie increases our sense of menace really well. It also gives us knowledge of what's happening in small doses, small shocking doses, like a slap in the face. The pacing is good. There's a couple of slow bits. Low budget films tend to suffer a little bit from that at times. They're not annoyingly slow. They're just little bits where you go, okay, what's going to happen next? The acting's really good. The locations are good. The writing is on point. And like Benson and Moorhead, they're very good at giving us a sense of an unseen world around these people. And the Block Island sound is genuinely creepy. And it is genuinely a good piece of low-budget filmmaking made by up-and-comers. And Redux Redux's second film has got the McManus Brothers some real attention because they really nailed it with the second movie. But the first one, which is actually their second movie, and they also did a TV series for 2 seasons called American Vandal, their sense of building unease and building real tension in their films is nailed down with this first film. The Block Island sound does exactly what it needs to do to sell to an audience. There is a real sense of families in crisis and families where the past is still with you in certain ways. And when the thing that's causing the horror reveals itself by what it does, we never actually see it. It is genuinely a threat. It can change things in unusual ways. It can control gravity. It can control the minds of not only humans, but creatures. It seems to be studying life on Earth in a very direct and disturbing way. I really like movies like this. I like movies that don't give you what you think you need in a science fiction movie, but give you what you really need and give you things that don't directly tell you, but show you that something's going on and they show you the effects of what's going on. And to make this movie satisfying, they never need to show you the big bad. They just have to show you what it does and how it does it and the ruthlessness with which it does what it does. I was thinking about low-budget movies like this a little bit after I watched these 2 films. And one of the things is, if it's a low-budget film, even though it does usually have producers, it has few people interfering with the creative process of making the movie. You don't have a big studio, you don't have focus groups, you don't have algorithms, you don't have all of that stuff messing with the vision of the creative people. And I like that. It lets us hear the voice of the authors. And in this case, the authors are also the directors. And you hear their voice clearly and you hear their lived knowledge of the location because it's the area they grew up in. It's a really eerie little film. It doesn't have a lot of blood and guts and gore, but it is genuinely disturbing in its own way. And it tells its story. And it tells the story in exactly the way the creative people behind it want to tell the story. You should check it out. It's probably on streaming somewhere. You should be able to find a copy of the Block Island sound. And that sound does stay with you. It is a very creepy bit of sound. And the sound design in the movie is incredibly well done. There are times when things happen off screen and you hear them and you know that there's something bad there. And I like that.
I have been traveling through the multiverse looking for my daughter, looking for a world where she wasn't kidnapped and murdered.
So then we get to the second movie, which is even more accomplished, Redux Redux, which, to be honest with you, is not the best title for a movie, but I'm not sure what would be a good title for this film. According to Wikipedia, it's a science fiction adventure thriller, and the premise is really, really strong. It's got a strong female lead, played by the sister again of Kevin and Matthew McManus, being Michaela McManus. She plays a woman called Irene Kelly, who for maybe 10 years has been doing something nobody else in the entire multiverse has been doing. About 10 years or so ago, her daughter was kidnapped, assaulted, and killed by a serial killer called Neville, who is a short order cook at a local diner. Irene lives in the one known universe where machines exist to allow people to jump between alternate universes in the multiverse. It's the only place she ever finds that has this technology. And so Irene is on a mission. She's on a number of missions. There's a complexity to her missions that I find really interesting. First one is she doesn't know where her daughter's body is, and she wants to find where Neville has hidden the bodies. She kills Neville in her own universe, and she still needs to find where her daughter's body is. So she gets into the machine, which is like a big refrigerator laid on its back with a whole bunch of steampunky accessories to it, and jumps to another universe.
I don't even know what I am anymore.
And so she tortures and kills the Neville there and doesn't get the answers she needs to find out where her daughter is hidden. And she forms a business model of jumping to each universe and killing Neville on a Thursday, because Thursday is Neville's payday, and she uses the money she steals from Neville to continue her quest, jumping each week between universes, torturing and killing Neville's, and trying to find out what happened to her daughter. It's a great premise and requires a really tough actress, and Michaela McManus nails the job. Her character's got a little bit of Linda Hamilton in the Terminator movies. She's a very strong woman. And as the movie progresses, I'm not going to go into too many spoilers, but I'm going to give you enough to throw some chum in the water. Every other universe she jumps into, the version of her in that universe is so grieving for her daughter that she ends her own life. She's the only surviving version of herself. All the other ones, because they live in universes where the multiverse doesn't exist and the multiverse technology doesn't exist, they all fall into depression and end their own lives. She's the only one who finds something to keep her going, and that something is to jump between universes and kill Neville's. We meet Irene 10 years into this process, and her life is a lot more complex than at first we think. She does have a personal life in a way, in a weird way, and she also has a lot of the things she needs to survive in the alternate universes. She has a whole bunch of keys for hire vehicles that she needs for the job. She has Neville's keys to get into his house when she needs to attack him. She knows all the people in the diner where Neville works.
He a friend of yours?
No.
She's built up a methodology of doing this monstrous thing she does. And the movie starts out with a really striking scene with Irene out in the desert, and she's standing in the desert at night, and in front of her, tipped on its side, is a chair, and tied to that chair is Neville, and she sets him on fire and just stands there and watches him. Incredible movie. She does find somebody she helps survive Neville's attack because he's a serial killer. He's continuing to do this stuff. And it's a young runaway called Mia who ends up being her accomplice and her friend. And Irene and Mia travel between the universes and try to find answers. And one of the answers that Irene needs is to find a universe where her daughter survived and to see who her daughter is as an adult, because her daughter's grown up in the 10 years. That's one of her quests. The other one is to find out whether any other Irene survived. And the third one is to keep Mia alive when she meets Mia and they bond up. And there are problems in their way. The machine breaks down and Irene has to find an underground parts supplier which exists across the multiverse. There are people from her universe who supply parts to other people traveling the multiverse. And those people aren't to be trusted. So there's some scenes where she encounters the people selling parts for these cross-time machines. And she has to deal with the consequences of not having as much money as they're asking her for the parts she needs. Incredible film. And there is ultimately a point where they kind of sort of meet the ultimate boss level Neville. And both Mia and Irene almost die in the encounter. Incredible premise. It's done on a fairly low budget still, but it's a powerful little film that uses the science fiction to tell a really complex story about strong female characters. One genuinely monstrous human being in Neville. I really like the way this story is told. It is beautifully written, the script. The characters are all precise. She meets multiple versions of some characters. And there are some good scenes of violence in the film.
Please.
Where's her body?
How many times have you killed him?
A lot.
And there are little bits and pieces that you notice in the movie as well. Like, for instance, when she's got money, the $20 notes she has have Harriet Tubman on the notes. They don't have whoever else the other guy is. There's little subtle bits like that, where even though it's a low-budget movie and they can't do massive changes in each universe, there are subtle little things that change in each universe in order to give us Easter eggs into the fact that Irene is traveling across literally thousands of different universes, stopping a serial killer in each one and using his money to finance the next trip. Incredible movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I'd heard a little bit of buzz about it before I saw it. And this is my kind of thing. I like smart science fiction movies that give us strong characters and give us interesting twists on the characters. And finding out what Neville does to people is quite confronting and horrifying. And the boss level Neville you see at the end is genuinely a menace, even though he does look like a big schlubby ordinary guy working as a cook in a diner. Behind the scenes, he is a genuinely terrifying human being. All of it works. If you like serial killer movies, you got to like this. If you like smart science fiction, if you like movies with strong female characters, if you like to find up-and-coming directors and up-and-coming creative people who are really good at what they do and are now starting to get a little bit of a light shone on them, you should check out the Block Island sound. You should check out Redux Redux. They're better than 90% of the stuff that Netflix and Prime are putting out. They're strong science fiction. They're interesting. They tell stories in a different way. They're the kind of stuff I really like finding. Yes, I could do this channel and only talk about all the old movies we already know, but that's not going to be something I love doing. I do like talking about old movies, but I also really love finding more recent science fiction movies that pay off. And that 10 years from now, you're going to be going, oh yeah, I remember when they told me about this guy's previous movie or these guys' previous movie. And now they're hitting really big. It's like Benson and Moorhead are now showrunners on the Daredevil Born Again series that Disney's doing. It pays off for them. And before that, there was Vincenzo Natali, who is doing stuff now. A whole bunch of other smaller science fiction oriented directors. Alice Pong, a whole bunch of them, who really are where the good stuff's at. Even though they're not going to be the directors of the enormous things that have hundreds, $200 million budgets, they're still giving us good science fiction. And I will always champion people who are doing that, people who know genre well and use it well, and don't just give us predictable movies that just cater to an algorithm. Got to appreciate that more than a lot of the smoothed out stuff you get from the big players. And these days, the big players are streaming services, which own movie companies. The good stuff is at the fringes of things. Innovative science fiction always comes from the edges of things. It comes from weird little Canadians like William Gibson. It comes from strange military guys like Heinlein. It comes from Joanna Russ and Ursula K. Le Guin and Tananarive Due and all sorts of people who are not at the center of things, who are not posh, who are not privileged, who are not corporate. The good stuff in science fiction movies, in science fiction novels and stories, come from the fringes. As people who love science fiction, we should always be drawn to them. So that's what I got for you this time around. 2 hidden gems. You've got to check these out. I think a lot of you will enjoy them. Some of you won't, but some people are just locked into nostalgia as far as science fiction is concerned. And it's okay that you are. But I'm just asking anybody who watches this, step outside your comfort zone, see what's there. You can always go back to it, working out that people like the McManus Brothers are making science fiction that's worth your time and worth appreciating and worth sharing with other people. Spread the word if you like these movies. You're going to be helping these people to make more movies that you will enjoy. That's it for this time around. Thanks a lot for watching. All the usual stuff, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you enjoyed the video. You can always help out as well to keep the channel going by becoming a channel member on YouTube or by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. Got a video for you on Monday, and I've got some real classic westerns and other things that Imprint have sent me. And I rewatched probably one of the best westerns in history on 4K, and I loved it. I'm going to talk about it on Monday. So until then, don't eat too many Easter eggs. Watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Try some movies but you haven't tried before. Try some good science fiction movies you haven't tried before. And I'll catch you next time.